Awesome. Welcome you all. How are y'all doing? Thank y'all for joining us for this panel. Um, y'all doing good?
Doing well.
Doing
Thank you
great.
thank you so much for having us see some familiar faces on the panel as well. Elton, are you in LA?
That's
No, I moved.
Ah, gotcha,
No, I
gotcha.
moved to Miami.
Awesome, awesome.
Look, the quick disclaimer, y'all. Look here. It's early in the morning, and I had a time last night, so don't talk about my backdrop. I couldn't get it right. So,
we see it. It's perfect.
do it really? Oh, it showed backwards on my side. Okay, cool. I thought I was
Oh,
tripping.
most people it show backwards, which is kind
Oh,
of
listen, I had my espresso martini last night. I think something happened. So, all right, cool.
well, that's great. It's so interesting that I asked Elton the same question earlier. Yes, and throughout the week, I said, "What city are you actually in?" Because nobody knows. But let's begin. So, welcome you all to the Roots of Rising panel session. What's so cool is that many of us are rarely able to have spaces that actually looks like this. And it's cool that we get to create this space. And a few actually for just sharing with everyone that's on this call that you're going to be going into houses. And so we're going to operate this space as if y'all are peeking into our window of our house. So it's just going to be like a natural conversation as if we were actually serving as a house. So we're kind of, in a sense, modeling what um, we want to happen actually within the houses. Another thing too, before we start the panels, I want to kind of set us up. Definitely in relation to our pre-work and the long pre-work, as some people say. I'm so sorry, but I love a good story, and I wanted y'all to know like all of the things. I was like, how do I cut this? Some I was like, I can't cut it. I cannot cut it. Like all of these things look great. So hopefully y'all read the pre-work or at least skimmed it and was able to hear my story. Yeah. But also when people registered for the summit, one of the questions that I asked was how many of us actually have access to a queer mentor or somebody that we're mentoring, and over 80% of folks said that they don't have access to a mentor or is mentoring somebody that's actually queer. So hopefully as we continue to do this summit, that will change. And so let's begin. I want to start with my mentor, one of my long-standing mentors, Daniel Calderon. And oh man, we met at a conference, which was awesome. We took a picture together, like, yo, I love the work that you're doing. And let's continue to chat. And then when Daniel went into nonprofit work, he was like, you need to also serve as my mentor right now because you've been here for me. I'm like, I can't help you. But I did serve on your advisory. But I want to ask you this question to begin and just like set the space. But how did you come into being? Like, what energies, experiences, and people do you bring into this space with you?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And you're just always thoughtful in what you ask. So I appreciate this space and being in community with some powerful Black men. Daniel P. Calderon, I am from Brooklyn, New York. I would always rep Brooklyn, but I am in sunny Los Angeles enjoying the sunshine. I was just in New York last week and I was like, oh my God, why did I live here? But but yeah, a good question from a background perspective. Thanks for teaching me all that you taught me about nonprofit. We just celebrated our 5 year anniversary last
Yeah.
week on Giving Tuesday. And I'm the leader at Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow, where we teach Black, Brown, and immigrant students how to solve problems through entrepreneurship and innovation. Other than that, I own a company called WFH Studios. So I basically run the business of creative artists. So you've probably seen their work in the world somewhere. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunities that have afforded me those opportunities and lessons. And I come from every single mistake that I've made or person who helped me along my path. But I think I will center my mom. She joined Ancestors in February, and I just honor her. And someone told me that you change when you lose a parent. And I think I definitely have transitioned and sort of seeing as some sort of patriarch, which is super weird. Um, But yeah, just her curiosity, just everything that she has contributed to people. And I was thinking of carrying on her legacy, but I learned quickly that now I have to really cement mine. So
Mm,
that's the energy that I bring into this
mm,
space.
mm. Okay, so we're gonna start right there. Bringing in our ancestors. Yeah, I love that, right? Like, yeah, that's good. That's good. We already bringing in that spirit. One of the persons who I love that continues to do the woo-woo conversations and always continue to bring in that spirit is Elton. I met Elton about 3 years ago when I started Messy Roots. He had did my numbers chart. And it helped me in my leadership journey and starting Messy Roots to really understand myself, right? From that spiritual level. Um, so Elton, introduce yourself and as a wellness leader, already, talking from like a spiritual standpoint where that Daniel had mentioned, what wellness practices help you to step more fully into yourself as a leader?
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for the intro and hey everybody. Yeah, my story is kind of weird. Like I've never been spiritual or cared about wellness. I'm a thug ass nigga from Detroit. So, you know, that's been my life. But in 2019 I had a near death experience. I developed malaria whilst I was shooting a travel show.
Mm,
And had to fight for my life. I literally lost 25 pounds, literally died. My mother had to come save me in Brazil. And on the other side of that, it opened up something that I never really I always kept protected. It was vulnerability. And as a
mm,
black gay man, I try to lead with success. Like I'm the best at this. I'm gonna be the best at this. I'm gonna make the most money. I'm gonna have this highest ranking title. And so since 2019 and my near death experience, it's just been a deconstruction of who I thought I was, and then a rebirth and a rebuilding of who I am now. So I just feel so honored to be here, even if I am the woo woo guy. But some of the practices I've learned while I lived in Bali during the pandemic for a year and a half.
mm,
And so some of the practices that I learned were very like esoteric, like human design and more like astrology and breath work and things like that. So I host retreats from time to time. And that's why I moved back to Miami because I just wanted to build my digital media company here. And it's really media based around wellness and holistic practices. So
mhm. Yeah, that's really cool for us to think about. Um, what does it mean for us to be like our full selves, right? Definitely when we have gone through something traumatic like that near-death experience, also like experiencing the death of a parent, right? Or our parent going into ancestry. I love that. That sounds so good, right? But sometimes that authenticity can be difficult, particularly in corporate spaces. Now, Brandon is, a Detroit nigga as well as Elton said, right?
All day.
Right. And so we got two Detroit people on the panel. Brandon, I have known you to really lead in these corporate spaces. I know that we have some folks that are in social impact from a corporate lens. Tell us more about like how do you as a Black queer person influence an organization from your identity as well as being able to show up?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's not an easy answer to that, right? And it's funny because I thought about the question going into this, and I was like, you know what? Let me tell you the real. Um, for many years I didn't leave with my sexuality. I actually separated the two. I made a very concerted decision that my identity wasn't defined by my sexual orientation. That was very like, and I was staunch on that. Like that was firm until I realized that I was only giving the organization a fraction of what they were paying for, right? And so today I'm a chief HR officer, chief diversity officer. You can't lead in those spaces without showing up authentically as you, right? Because then you BSing, right? Um, but also I'm a first generation college student. I'm a first generation exec or corporate or whatever. And my parents said, look, don't mess up that money. don't mess up that good paying job. Right. So you kind of shrink in those moments at first, and then you realize there's a duality to when you show up in that way. You get a little bit exhausted
Mhm.
over time. Right. And it's only so long you can wear those two hats. And
Yeah.
so for me, those aha moments started to hit when I started similar to the former brother story. I started to get sick, physically sick, because I was wearing these two hats of who Brandon was in the workplace and who he was outside. And the spirit won't let you do that for so long. So I got really clear about my why. Why am I showing up in this space, and ultimately why am I put in these spaces? And it's ultimately to change and drive change for myself and others around. Lastly, I got real clear with the people who were around me. What I found was the folks that are around me were also projecting their insecurities onto me, and that actually prevented me from showing up fully authentic, right? And so you got to push through those moments. Um, so ultimately, when I got really clear and got really grounded, for me, the question was, how comfortable do I feel being unsafe in moments and environments in which a paycheck is associated with it? And so the truth of it is, my
That-
worth is not defined by a paycheck,
yeah.
right? And once you get clear on that, and there's a higher power, there's a higher rationale on why, you get real clear on how you want to show up. And you realize that you open the doors for others when they see your true identity. So for me, it was a light bulb moment.
Mhm. All right. Let's go to Jonathan and Mo. Our PhD academic first year folks. I think about, our school experience, right? And how when we go to school, whether it be undergrad, also K through 12, we are often not seen, right, in those textbooks and different research papers. So we're severely, when it comes to Black queer leadership and queer leaders of color specifically, we're severely underrepresented. I want y'all to talk about specifically what does it look like to and share your story, share school that you're in, what you're studying, all of those things. But as PhD candidates, I want y'all to share more specifically what is it like for y'all to show up authentically in those type of spaces when specifically academic spaces when we were not even like thought of or didn't have us in mind. So yeah, Jonathan, you go first. Who I was on a panel with. That's how we met. It's just so crazy. Full circle.
It over a love of theater. We can't forget about that now.
Yes, yes, yeah. Because we went to see uh
Choir boy.
Jeremy Pope when was it? Choir Boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good, such good. And we went to see Thoughts of a Color Man as well. So yeah, yeah, we
Mhm.
went to see many plays together. But yes,
Thank you for having me. Can I take speaker privilege for like 1 second and just have everybody come off mute and just say hello, what's up? Get your voice in the space for
I love
just a moment. On the count of three, can everybody just come off mute for just
it.
a moment and just on the count of three, give me a hello, how you doing? All right, here
Yeah.
we go. One, two, three. What's up,
How y'all
y'all?
What up,
doing?
Yo, how you
y'all?
Yo,
Good
doing?
morning.
Hey
Good
everyone.
morning.
Morning,
hey,
morning, morning.
Good morning.
Love that.
Cool.
That's so
Uh,
beautiful.
no problem. Look, this is our space. Mario, thank you for having me. I think about being a first year doctoral student. It has been a journey to get here, and I do feel like I'm actually in the right place. I think this year in particular has been really difficult for higher education because they've rolled back
Mhm.
admission in so many doctoral programs. So to actually be able to squeeze through, given the systemic exclusion, is really an honor. And I think for me, I'm carrying a weight of responsibility to bring our stories and my life experience with me even more, given
Mhm.
that that's our reality. And
Mhm.
so I think about just my journey as a student through education. It has not been easy. I was definitely the kid talking too much in class, sent to in-school suspension, getting the U's on my conduct, but still, high achieving and making good grades. And so I think education is not always compassionate and caring for us. And so when we make it to these high levels of education, it really is it's a responsibility. It's those stories. It's the people who haven't made it that I'm bringing with me. And that's ancestors, parents, siblings, friends. I think about, for me, I think the one person who comes to mind in this space, especially, is the little gay black boy in high school who was really effeminate, who was a target of so much bullying, um, that did not even make it through high school. Um,
Mm,
and so I think we have to honor that person and their stories in this experience too. So that's what
mm.
this means to me at this moment.
Ah, that's good. Mo, I mean, you come from the education world, right? We talk oftentimes about that K to 12th grade, boy, that high school boy, right, that is in school that does not get the opportunity to see this. I remember the time we talked about Nigel Shelby, when he passed away, and I said, like, not another student. What does this look like for you, as you are in this space as a PhD candidate, creating space for us, and then also share your background?
hmm Thank you for the question. For me, attending the CUNY Graduate Center and the Urban Education Program, um, I've really premised my research around the question, what can Black, queer, and youth-led liberation movements teach us about how to educate marginalized students? Um, and basically, I have focused my studies on different aspects of my life, right? My coming of age as a queer Black boy, the formal and informal educational spaces that I was a part of, being educated in a predominantly white town with white classmates and teachers, but going to a freedom school as an after school program and a summer camp and getting that supplementary education that really formed my sense of consciousness in terms of being Black. And so that is really what my education, or excuse me, what my research focuses on in the PhD program. Um, and I'm just sure to show up prepared with questions um, whenever I'm in this space, and also I'm intentional about identifying silences and blind spots.
Mhm.
I also adhere to Judaism, and there's a lot of conversation right now about Palestine and Israel. Usually, my experience is left out of that, so I try to make sure my voice is heard, and that my experiences and experiences of folks who live at the margins or at intersections are visible.
Mhm, mhm. That's so good. Yeah, we was literally again recently on a panel together, which almost it seemed like this panel is a continuation of that panel that we recently did. Thank you all for just some amazing introductions and just setting the space of what does it mean for us to actually show up as authentic individuals. Um, I'm
Mario, I realized I didn't share my doctoral
yeah,
studies. Yes,
please
so I'm
visual. You do yes, and the importance of that as well. Yes.
absolutely. So, doctoral student in communication at American University. The focus of the research is weaponized political rhetoric. So, looking at the ways in which corporate and political leaders are using their platforms to advance hate and the consequences on marginal communities. And so, you think about all the anti-LGBT legislation that's been put forward, the ways in which we're seeing racism and ableism and misogyny just mainstreamed. How do we challenge that? Because we feel those impacts more than anyone, and folks who are close to us feel it more than anyone. So that's what I'm doing.
That's so good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think about and going to where our next conversation, where we're going next in our conversation. Those who fought in that space, Bayard Rustin and James Baldwin, right? And what's very interesting to me about when I studied them is that oftentimes we don't get to hear about their intersection. We don't oftentimes hear about when did they meet up? When did they interact with each other? Which is why I chose that picture on our registration page where you see Bayard Rustin clapping James Baldwin, and they are surrounded by other straight Black men, some being allies. You have A. Philip Randolph right there, but oftentimes you don't get to have right that experience of seeing that other queer part, and actually lately I have been having many of those experiences. So I want to name that and using I statements that I have been able to have experiences often where there have been black queer men that have said, "Oh my God, you're doing such a good job. I'm so proud of what you're doing," and really service that image, right? So I think about if going back to James Baldwin and Byron Rustin, and if it wasn't for James Baldwin writing in the Harper magazine and calling out Martin Luther King, somebody who is, you know, this political figure, like literally leveraging his leadership and his position to do this, and saying, "King, you were wrong for taking Byron Rustin off of off of your committee." Um, and part of that conversation helped King to say, and A. Philip Randolph, we have to give him credit too, to say actually Byron Rustin needs to be back on this committee, and on top of that, like lead the March on Washington. The March on Washington wouldn't have happened, and so I want to go to Brandon and Dangle to specifically talk about their experiences mentoring folks and also being mentored. Daniel, you being a longstanding mentor of mine. I want to continue to bring you back into this conversation, definitely with the stats that we discuss when folks register. So, Daniel, can you talk about like a time when you did show up for another queer a black male? And then Brandon, I want you to also share your experience as well with the same question.
Yeah, and I don't think I could think of, or there's probably too many to name as at one time.
Oh, good.
You know, so that was a difficult one to sort of think. But I think about just how I'm here. There's so many Black queer people, I mean people in general, but let's talk about Black queer people who have been a part of that journey. I could see on the call we have Brian Epps, who when we were running around Newark, New Jersey
Yeah.
talking about relationships, just talking about life, right? And like who we are as people. So shout out to Brian on this call. And then Dr. Sean Larry, I think that's really the community that you build is sort of how you're supported as well. So I think I try to do that as well as like what community am I building intentionally? And that could go from, you know, giving advice to a young queer boy who grew up in church that has problems with self-worth. Have many of those conversations because I've had to have that conversation, right? And I have some sort of reference to that. And it could be somewhere to sleep on someone's couch because I slept on a couple of people's couches, right? So I think, you know, really how we think about like helping or think counting what we did for people. I don't really count that because I would owe so many, so many beyond what I could actually give. But what I do think about in terms of you know giving what you have, I think you know really making sure that we are at a place of where we can actually add value and not really overextend ourselves. That's where I've been sort of thinking about doing this work so we don't come out as at a deficit and really thinking about like what are the energies that you do have, what are the resources that you truly do have, and not overextending that. So that's how I sort of think about you know us now being the mentors or the leaders, making sure that we are able to really support versus you know put ourselves at a deficit.
Thank you for sharing that, Brandon.
This was a good question for me. It actually forced me to really reflect personally on my own journey. I mean, I didn't come out, and I'd say that everybody has to, but I didn't come out to family until I was 30. I'm 40 now, right? For some, that's later in life. Um, and I would define my form of mentorship by sharing my journey and the years that I lost, and hopefully those stories, I'm not wouldn't say regret, open the door, but also shine a light to the space that you're supposed to be in, and give courage and acknowledging the little boy that I needed, or little big mentor that I may have needed at a younger age. But I will say this: I mean, certainly in the workspace, um, often names are passed by either my desk or my office, and it comes with some form of bias from folks that look like us. And let's pause for a second, y'all. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy.
Yeah, yeah.
Melanated folks are kinfolk, ain't kinfolk.
Mhm.
Uh, Sometimes we can show up with big crabs in the barrel, and I hate that. And that's just my lived experience. Someone feel free to challenge that. But my point in that is sometimes the confidence that the queer community may have may disturb the peace that straight men may have. And I've seen moments, I've been in environments in which I've had to correct folks who look like us that when we're talking about folks of the community. And that
Hmm.
happens quite a bit. And double down on that, it
Hmm.
comes at risk. The risk could be exposing self, or you be labeled as someone who is overly protective of a particular community in the workplace. So all
Hmm.
that to say, um, what I've landed on, if my leadership only benefits me, then it's
Hmm.
not legacy, it's proximity,
That's
right?
good. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's a journey for all of us. There's not one clean story that I have, but I do think it's a mantra that somewhat protects the brothers that come before me and those that subsequently will come after.
So good. Thank you for sharing that. Y'all are just, I mean, y'all leaving me with stuff to reflect on. As I heard y'all already, we already, in our planning session, I was able to hear some of these things, but just hearing them, yet again, and to just take it all in. And, the year is ending. We're about to, you know, really focus on that reflection. Everybody already are doing the music stuff already. We're there naming, what songs, those number one, number two, number three, but it's like also like what goals did I accomplish, right? This year. And oftentimes those goals are not accomplished without those mentors. I want to name though, like the folks that came before us that were not also able to see us. I love that, Jonathan. But I want to name the folks. I like. I'm sorry, I got distracted with that. Like, because that is what I was saying right there, right? But yeah, I want to name the leaders that came before us that are unnamed, right? I oftentimes like to call them minor prophets. And these are folks who passed away from the HIV and AIDS epidemic. And I always like to bring them into the conversation because of the fact that it's a missing group of people, right? We could oftentimes lean on our elder, as the Black community as a whole, we can lean on elders that may be older than us in our 60s, 70s. But if you notice, that age group for our population is often missing, right? And first of all, let's name them, right? If you know individuals, I thought a good book that really painted a good picture of this was My Government Means to Kill Me. Definitely check out that book. It has a fictitious role of Wyatt Rustin in it, but it's a really, really good book. If you know me, you know I'm gonna always share share a book with folks. But Maurice and Jonathan, I want to go to you. So, from a spiritual lens in your work, how do you understand the impact of an almost missed generation in our community today? I want to start off with you, Mo, and then go to Jonathan.
Hmm. Um, so I'll start by sharing that so far in 2025, two of my mentors have passed away. One was a minister in my faith community who's actually responsible for bringing my father into ministry when he was coming off the streets and turning his life around. And the other was a professor who was a queer Black man at Penn State at PWI. And he was a professor of music. I was in his choir with Eric Williamson, who's also on the call.
Yes, I
He
saw
was
you.
like, he was like a father figure, right? Um, and so I spent a lot of time going through what I felt like might have been an existential crisis, just really questioning God, like, why are you taking these people away from me? I'm applying to a PhD program. I'll need them more. And what I have felt spiritually as a response is that, like, it's my time. Um, and the mantle really is being passed along. And, uh, and so I think it's important to reflect on questions like this. What's the impact of a missing generation? Um, I think we miss out on wisdom because that's what the elders bring into community. Uh, and also representation. Usually, people who are mentoring us share something professionally or culturally or something else. That representation is essential, especially for queer folk and Black folk. It's not impossible, but it's really hard to become what you can't see. And so having that generation not be here to pour openly and generously into us throughout our development means that we have to actually take on a bit more responsibility in terms of shaping culture. And it's a challenge, right? If you consider the fact that, and I'll just give one example, consider the fact that throughout our education experience, when we're receiving sex education or health education, it's usually heteronormative. And so queer people typically, I'll just speak for myself. I'll use I statements. I never felt that I was being spoken to or that my identity was being spoken to directly. And so I spent a lot of my 20s doing things that adolescents who were straight and who had the education and had the wherewithal, just, 25 years old in New York City, really just figuring things out because that was a blind spot. That was a gap in education in a public schooling system, public meaning for all. And so, what that means for me today as an educator in higher education, as a PhD student, working to become a social scientist, and a nonprofit director of education and coaching, I really just try to make myself available to my students, current and also past. I actually had a former student of mine close out the semester with me at Brooklyn College and guest lecture. And so I try to keep those relationships strong. I try to support folks as best I can. I invite them into my spaces with me. I agree with the idea that I'm not just getting this PhD, but my five siblings and my mom and my grandmother, all of us, we get in this together. And I think that's the best way to you can't really you can't fill in the gap of a missing generation, but that's the best way to try and take account for it.
I love that you share that. Yeah, Jonathan, please share.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the value of scholarship. And when you're at the doctoral level, you are producing knowledge. And I think about those folks who we lost who would have been producing knowledge that honored our experience,
Mhm.
right? We understand like a lot of the research and academic study, the participants are usually white college students that faculty have proximity to. And so a lot of the findings are based off of those relationships. And so you think about the diversity of our research pools and what that would have been able to do to enrich our perspectives on so many different aspects of our lives in psychology, in education, in the arts, in communication. You name the discipline, we would be bringing our experience and the experience of our families forward.
Mhm.
So I think that, as a scholar now, it's about, how are we honoring the lived experiences that we all have, the diversity of our experiences, making sure that those folks are represented in our research, because that is essentially providing the script for the next generation, right? Um, and so I think from a doctoral standpoint, that's what I think about. I think from a lived experience standpoint, one of the things that has helped me in my own development is engaging with Black queer practitioners and collaborating with folks to really scale what we're trying to do so we can reach as many people as possible. So I think for me, going to New York, having a Black gay therapist, um, that was a part of a practice that was nascent, right? It had just been started in 2018. So recognizing that a lot of the resources available to us are still relatively new. And so
Mhm.
we're all figuring this thing out together. So we kind of experimented with each other, right? And so, being patient and compassionate in those experiences and knowing that they're grounded in love, I think remembering that is important too. I had a massage therapist who was a queer Black woman who really helped me tap into my body,
Mhm.
honoring the wealth of knowledge that exists within our bodies, right? Not just in our minds. I have done some group, most recently was in this group sort of sex uh sex therapy with other black and brown queer men that was transformative and like healed me in some really interesting ways, particularly around just comfort with vulnerability, because like sex is the thing, right? Like we're developing emotional intimacy and there's a physical intimacy to our relationships that we also need to honor. And so I think getting more comfortable with that side of me was also really helpful. But these are gay black folks who are just saying, look, we're going to do our best to serve our people. And I think that's how we honor the ancestors more than anything. So,
And I appreciate it. Well, Elton, I want you to pretty much like close us out like within this panel because one of the things that I always see with your work, from pictures to videos, and one of the things that you inspire me as is to remind myself that being black and queer is a gift. It's such a gift. Explain, like, even from like, just your lens, like how did you come into being and what does it mean for black and queer people to see ourselves as gifts?
Uh, so thanks for the beautiful question. I've been switching my talents from more of an Instagram focused space to TikTok actually. And I
Mhm.
feel like TikTok has so much more freedom, whereas uh, Instagram is more aspirational, oh, I got the best body, I got the best car and all that. It's kind of a little bit toxic. TikTok is more inspirational and it really lends itself to vulnerability. So, what I've been doing as a black man in this spiritual space, I have been talking my shit, but I talk it like with a wife beater on and like a fitted on and like a gold chain. And I have been on like 5 white people podcasts in the last week. And but I come as my full self and like white women love me, like 45-year-old white women, they love me. And I just be talking just like how I talk to y'all. And the gift is, and I've been telling everybody, I literally made a post to white women. I said, white women, uh, your gift is under your privilege. So wherever you have your privilege at, that's the gift you need to give to people. Them hoes loved it. Like they've been that that post went up. And so I'm just like, I am showing up with complete just
Yeah.
authenticity, but even beyond authenticity, and what I talk about on my other TikTok page is integration of the shadow. Because a
Mhm.
lot of black gay men, we have all the shadow work. I'm so glad Jonathan brought up sex. I love a good fellowshipping with some brothers. uh, but I think it's so important to have these conversations. So if any of y'all want to follow me on TikTok, I got like a main TikTok and a little side TikTok where I talk about sex. I talk about the vulnerability of bottoming. Like I go there. Like I really do. Because
That's
bottoming is about surrender. And like for the whole part of my life, I'm a top, I can't do it. And then when I turned 40, I was like, oh, pass the fleet. But seriously, like honestly, I'm like, I can't, I gotta be honest. So I
love
just
you. God, yes, keep
I,
on going.
Yeah, so I'm like literally just like I'm in a flow state of vulnerability, and vulnerability is honestly the strongest superpower that we can all have. I coach a lot of my straight homies. Like right now I got a homeboy that's a Q, a alpha, and a kappa, and I am coaching them on like vulnerability and showing up vulnerable in their sales approaches and showing up vulnerable as fathers, like literally. And these are 3 of my best friends. So I just really feel like I'm in a good space, and this conversation is like so aligned with everything I've been doing. So I just feel like this is a gift to me.
I love that. I love that. In closing, we have like just 3 minutes. Elton, you always bring us. I mean, even when we're on a call, we're like, oh, let's just have this quick call. Then it'll be in 2 hours because you always have something that that inspires me. I'm like, can you talk a little bit more about this? But Yeah, so just real quick, Jonathan, starting with you, share how do you hope your story will inspire others? Just real quick, we have like just 2 minutes, but how do you hope your story will inspire others?
Ooh. I hope my story will inspire others to really just invest in their healing
Hmm. Hmm.
as uh it is as valuable an investment as how much money you have in the bank,
Hmm.
right? And the assets you'll acquire, because I think it's through that work that I have found it's pulled me in the direction where I feel most purposeful, where I feel most values aligned, where I feel most grounded, and with people who are warm and who love me.
So good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Mo, please share. How do you hope your story will inspire others?
Um, I I hope my story will um, show others that we already have what we need to be
Mhm.
where we want to be and to do what we want to do. I almost applied for this PhD program, I think 4 or 5 times. Um, and there was nothing unique about this time. I just said yes to myself and I stopped being afraid of my own shadow. And realized that, the God that I pray to is also inside of me. And I knew that it would propel me through whatever this chapter of my life is supposed to be. So um, I hope that that's my example. A kid who was, I got special education services from third to ninth grade. Didn't always feel successful in school. Now I'm teaching future
Yeah.
teachers how to teach special education students. So saying yes to yourself, tapping into the God within, I think is what my story teaches.
So good. Elton, and then we'll close out with Daniel. I have to respect, my mentor.
So yeah, my I would say my story, I just really am using my own story to help people heal their own visibility wounds. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people that are hiding a lot of parts of themselves and hiding amazing stories that they have. And so I just want to be like a catalyst for other people to feel safe. I want to create safe digital spaces for everybody.
Thank you. Daniel, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and I think my story, hopefully it shows that most things are fixable, right? And I think, sometimes we make a lot of mistakes or we think we have to be a certain person or we work or live in environments that sort of have you stuck in some sort of box. But hopefully the story is like it can be different. You can sort of write and, chart your own path. And then also know that there is someone who can answer the question. So I'm just so blessed to be able to get through the other side to know that there are other people who can support you and could just open up doors for you in very powerful ways.
So good. All right, so that was awesome. I have to just thank you all because like this was just inspiring for me. I learned so much from it, and I hope that other people have gained just a necessary experience for them to be able to join as well. And then we also saw that Brandon his Zoom had crashed. But Brandon, put it in the chat like what you hope as well. I'm going to remove us from the spotlight just so that we could now be able to see everyone else give us a round of, for everyone else, give y'all a round of applause. And for the space and everything. But yeah, everybody thank the panelists and everything for just, man, that was dope.